that's how you pop a belt. All right, so we just move on down to the next one. Damage from that pull-through sharpener. That part. That's what pull-through sharpeners do to knives. Every one of these have damage. And we talked about it. And it's really not worth grinding down that much metal in order to get rid of it. So, we shall leave it. Either loose off. So I did the thinning, as usual, with the 80 grit. Brought up the burr, I can see that white line form on both sides. Then moved it up to the slack part of the belt and kind of blended it. Then did a bread knife and snapped the belt. So Lesson learned. I always go edge trailing. I have to go back and watch the video. I know I did the back side edge trailing. Obviously didn't do the front, did I? Alright. No harm done. Yeah, you can see, look at that part. Moral of the story, don't use pull-through sharpeners. Get a work sharp field guide sharpener. It's got a diamond plate and a ceramic rod. So much better. This one was so bad, I wish I'd have showed you this one earlier. It was really bad. Still a little work to do on it. You know, you just got to kind of judge where, if the damage is so bad from the pull-through sharpener, is it worth grinding off all that metal off of good knives in order, just you can see that one too. A lot of knives here to shorten today. This is the 120, and after I thinned them and I brought up the burr on it, it don't take but about 2 passes, actually 1 pass to get a burr, but I always just do 2 and 1 more to grow on. It's that habit, you know. You see the 120 Cubitron does a great job. And then I'll go to a 600 just to work on that burr a little bit. You know, you bring up the burr, you reduce, refine, then remove. I changed up my process just a little bit. I went back to a leather belt. I was doing a paper wheel, hard felt, and then a leather wheel, but I don't know if it was boredom or what, but I went back to the rock hard felt, then go to the leather felt, look at it under magnification, and judge it by the old paper test. It was just fine. Because I sharpened at a farmer's market, and I am slammed when I'm there. So it's not that I wanted to do a less effective or a cheaper way. I just wanted a little bit quicker way without having to use all the wheels and everything. So that works. All right, so I got a 600 on, which is the A30 Trizac. We'll go to town. One, two. I found that just doing, you see that coming over the top, the dust, that means I've got the apex right. And just by doing 2 passes, maybe 1 for good luck, that kind of leaves that toothy edge on it a little bit. So you can still slice through like dense veggies, cucumbers, tomatoes, etc. and still get a good slice on it. And I have found, of course, as long as I've been sharpening, I've done it every way just for my own knowledge, and I've gone all the way up to 1200, and yes, the blade is sharp. But when you go up that high, or when I go up that high, what I noticed is it was hard to get started in like a tomato. once you got through it, it sliced just fine, but it was just that initial kind of, you had to saw it a little bit. So just by doing the 120 and the 600, it will just slice right through, and you don't have to saw it to get it started. Everybody loves it. Why do I know? Because I get a ton of repeat business. So that part in my business was where when I started, you know, you only sharpen it once, and then you're wondering if you're going to be able just to eat that week. But now I'm getting lots and lots of return business. Everybody's happy. I'm getting lots of referrals. Life is good. I'm going to put this on here, and then I'm going to go over to the rock hard felt. Actually, let's just bring the rock hard felt to us. So let's dump, because I got it nailed down. Let me get this plugged up. Bear with me, and I want to show you something here in just a minute. So we make knives too, restore knives. That's one of my favorite things. And if you do, you got to check out this 600 grit. I'll show it to you. 600 grit super wheel from Pop's Knife Supply. They've got all different grits. It's kind of like a fiber wheel, but not. But you're talking about polishing up a knife. So what we do is we'll sand it on a belt up to 600. Then I switch to this thing, and it is just incredible. All right, let's take all these knives over. I know, don't cringe. I feel you. So I do the rock hard felt, and it absolutely just rips the burr plumb off. And I love it. I'm gonna put some 3 micron diamond emulsion on this. You know, for me, I got a lot of the rouge, just the polished white and green, and I tried diamond emulsion last year, and I really enjoyed it. But I run out. Then I ordered some diamond spray, and I just wasn't a fan of that. But I love this diamond emulsion. It's just freaking hard to remember to buy it. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go edge trailing. I like to do it again because when I polish, I turn it front because it's easier to polish, and then when I do sharpening, I always turn it around. And I'm so used to that. I almost did, which is probably, I mean, it took a chunk out of the wheel. But I like the wheel going the other way for when I sharpen. But I nailed it down because it was walking, and I had a lot of custom knives to get buffed out. So I need to make a note to self, change this baby up, but you can probably see. So the first thing I do, just in case you're wondering, the first swap I go at a really high angle, probably, I don't know, what's that look like? 22 to 30. And then the second swap I do, I try to bring it at the sharpening angle. Then I bring it in. And that just seems to work best. What is my favorite sharpening angle? It's the one I've gotten comfortable with. I never tell nobody, because we all need to discover our own methods that makes us comfortable and what we're happy with. If we're doing what someone else is just saying, we're not going to learn the true art of sharpening. That just rips the burr plumb off. As proven under high magnification. This gets that, you always heard people, and still hear, not always heard, you hear people say, knives are sharp after I do them, but then the first time or two I use them, they go back dull. Why is that? Because this right here is getting that hard, it's called a root burr. It's the hardest part of the burr to get off, that last little bit. And a lot of people, especially home sharpeners, they stop well short getting that root burr off. And I found this right here to be, this rock hard felt to be fantastic, because I was having the same trouble. So I was doing everything under magnification, and I did the wheel, the rock hard felt, and it looked like there were strings under magnification hanging out, and it dawned on me, that is the root burr I've heard about. So ever since that time, that's all I use. I'm usually set up a little bit more efficient than this, but we've been working on a lot of these custom knives, and I've got my flow set up to finish in this customs, which I'll show you a few here in just a minute. But so we're coming to the leather belt, and your view is probably going to get a little wonky, I'm sorry, because, come on now, we'll have to stand over this belt. Alright, little 3 micron diamond emulsion on the leather, and we'll be ready to roll. Now, I always paper test the first couple sharpenings. And let me just grab something to get that accomplished with. Not just to show they're sharp, because we know they're sharp, but I have got a mess. My wife is a florist, and she's building a cooler, and every time she does a project, my knife shop takes the brunt of the storage, so a little bit of a pain in the butt. So if you see somebody, or at least this is what I do, after I get the knife sharpened, I do a paper test. And as I said, not just to show a knife will cut paper, but you have to listen to the way that the knife is slicing through the paper. You have to look at if there's any resistance to the edge, and it just kind of tells the story on if you've got more work to do or not. We'll see, let me bring you up here just a little bit. And after I do the first couple, and I just go on and sharpen. All right, so this, it starts at the edge with no hesitation, and now it pushes cuts, because I can just lift it up. It just pushes through, so that's a beautiful thing. Sometimes when you cut, I'll turn a knife over backwards just to demonstrate. Sometimes after you sharpen and you stick it on there, it'll crimp the paper, and that's not And right now, after the rock hard, it still cuts, but it's got a rough sound. So basically what I'm looking to do with this leather is take that rough sound out just to a clean sounding slice. And let's see if that does it. And that does. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. So I'm going to go on and do all those steak knives. These shuns in here. You know, if you sharpen, you know the problem with the shuns, the brittle edges. And those things were chipped to no end. So I had to do a little bit of extra thinning on those shuns just to get all that damage off the edge, because this lady is super nice that brought these knives over. She said they've never been sharpened. And I probably wouldn't argue that point. Somebody's done a little work with a poultry sharpener at some point though. Most of the time people say, my knives have never been sharpened, and I want to say, trust me, you don't have to convince me of that. Right. It looks like I'm in a... Oh, these are coming out nice, 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 nice. Now notice she has the steel rod in her sharpening block. And we're going to have a talk about that once I'm done. And that's a beautiful cut. Look at that, man. It's not even, I mean, that just, you could probably just drop the paper on the knife and it would go through it. Laying those there because I'm going to get them a good alcohol wipe down. So just to kind of recap, I thinned them with an 80 grit. I try to thin 10 degrees behind the blade. And you know, I like researching, and I wrote kind of a study, and I do these things for myself, but I wrote this article about, you know, sharpening a knife is really sharpening behind the edge. And that just flew right over a lot of people's heads. But if your knife gets worn, which they all do, you get up into the thicker part, and so the edge, the cutting edge, is much more thick than what it was when it was used. And what I always say is, basically, if you try to sharpen that knife, all you're doing is just sharpening the sides of a crowbar, because you're never getting to that apex. So if you thin them and you see that burr come up as you're thinning, now when you sharpen, you're doing something. You're turning the knives back to like they cut when they were new. They're going to last longer, cut more efficient, a whole lot more fun to cook with than you would if you just wear the edge out on a belt trying to sharpen something that's way too damn thick to be sharpening in the first place. So it's worth it to take your knives and somebody reputable and have them to thin them. Every knife that comes into my shop, I run them across here. Now sometimes it only takes about 2 swipes, which tells me they're ready to be sharpened, but I guess I call it kind of a maintenance thinning. But it's just worth it, because the true way to sharpen a knife is sharpen behind the blade and then polish the cutting edge, and then you got a knife. And then that's where the steel rod or the ceramic rod is what I like using. because the ceramic rod you can use on any knife. But if you use a steel rod and it didn't come with your set, then it doesn't match the steel of your knife, and 9.99 times out of 10 you'll do more damage to the steel than good, because you got two different grades of steel. But if it's the one that came with your knife set, I'll give you permission to use it. And that little giant is sharp. The shuns all chipped up, sorry, but they sure look better now. Not that they won't chip again. All shuns do. They do that because of the carbon clusters, because these are carbon blades. The carbon clusters gather up on this edge on shun knives, and where it chips is where that carbon all clustered together. But are they good knives? Heck yeah. Scalpel sharp is what they are. This lady wants a custom chef knife about this size, so we're going to do a Damascus. We've not decided what. Woo, sharp, sharp, sharp. Love it. Oh, that's what I was talking about when I changed up my sharpening process. There's more than one way, obviously, to sharpen. So I just like to stand on my toes, and even after many, many, many years of sharpening, just keeps it interesting still. I bet you this thing will take your fingers off. It will. Alright. So that wraps up a good old sharpening job here. Let me show you this real quick. So this is the steel that came with her knives. Now, it didn't come with this shoe, so she's not allowed to use it. But all you do each time you use, I do with mine, but this is not sharpening. That's a big misunderstood point. That's not for sharpening. It's made for maintaining once you have the knife sharpened, because the edge of a knife will get wavy. And if you don't do anything to correct that wave, then it rolls. That's when it's dull. So if you're cutting chicken and hitting the bone, or you're clicking the cutting board, you definitely need this. And all you do, all right, here's the way I teach people. Put your thumb in the middle of the blade. That's pretty daggum close to the sharpening angle, and you'll get used to it. So just not hard, just a couple of swipes. That's all it takes right there. So before you use a knife, if you'll do that, it will stay sharp for a long time. So that's that deal. On to some customs. We just finished these babies. That's John, my partner. He makes these. He's the engineer, and he's way more detailed than I'll ever be. But I love making these little knives. I mean, that's a 5-inch with black palm scales, custom etching. I don't know if you can see that good. Got a little bit of cleanup to do on the blades. I just finished these with 5 coats of true oil, flits, and Renaissance wax. But that's black palm from South Africa. Listen to that snap. Bam. desert ironwood on a Damascus folder. This is a desert ironwood with coyote tan kydex. This one and this one I showed in an earlier video. That's the same blade, but I custom etched that one and not this one. This is desert ironwood. I'll show you my all-time beauty. This is Damascus with woolly mammoth, 10,000-year-old bone. Black liners. Most of these have black or G10 liners on them, just for a little contrast. But I love that woolly mammoth with a Damascus blade. That's for sale on the website, www.theperfectblade.com. That was an old rusted blade that I found, put woolly mammoth scales on it. Thinking about taking those down a little bit more. I just hate to do too much work with that mammoth bone, but custom sheath for that too. No, I'm sorry, that's got the original sheath. All right, guys, appreciate y'all hanging around. I'm gonna get these wiped up and get them back to my valued clients. Hope y'all have a great day. Listen, do me a favor and like and subscribe. I really want you to subscribe so I can bring lots of content to the channel, sharpening tips and show some custom knives too. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Y'all have a good day. See ya.